Hi there, I'm still doing my small wooden cabin, but I was thinking maybe I'll show you how I've done my first ever walnut epoxy coffee table. I started polishing the wood properly, like going around the edges and then on each side. And then I applied the epoxy sealant, which basically is creating like a sealant, like the word says, of preventing any air bubbles or really anything coming, any residue coming from the slab. And that's gonna be before the flawed epoxy is gonna be applied, which is gonna give that mirror-like finish, which for me it wasn't easy to achieve, and I made a few mistakes as well. So here it's how it's looking like after 48 hours. It dried out and you can see it has some wrinkles, and that's because the slab surface wasn't completely flat. I started manually polishing lightly, which wasn't a good thing, and I'll tell you why later on because you'll see the result of it. But before getting there, I was thinking of maybe applying some dye to fill in those holes, which again I made a mistake here as well because the epoxy would keep going into the wood and I would have to come every 20-30 minutes to fill them up again and again. The bad thing is also the color doesn't show properly. It's more like looking like a black patch there, not showing any blue or whatever color this is. And that's because I should have created maybe just underneath the surface of the hole, like a bottom, let's say a white sealed bottom, so the light would reflect and show the color once it hit that bottom. Going back to the mistake I've done, these white patches came through from the manual polishing I was doing earlier, and those sort of mirror-like are those areas where I haven't done the proper job. So I started over again, this time using like the polisher, and the purpose was to get all this surface in full whitish color. So after the sealant, the epoxy sealant layer has been dried out, it's important that you polish properly, because once you polish properly, you'll be able to see any air bubbles or any spots you've missed. Because if you missed anything, the flawed epoxy layer, which is the last one to offer you a mirror-like finish, will only go into those cracks or only basically show the air bubbles, and there's nothing you can fix it with unless you go back to this stage. So lesson learned for me, because I've messed up and I had to start over again with the epoxy. I was so stressed about the flawed epoxy layer that I forgot to record, but what I've done literally was to pour the epoxy, use the normal debit card to spread it across evenly, but before that I just created this white little dam out of silicone to prevent from dripping and also to keep like a good layer of epoxy on top of it. And then I improvised creating this dust-free room to avoid any particles getting into my epoxy. And the end result, it's looking like this. And to be honest, I know there's a lot of space for improvement, but considering that I had no prior experience and it's my first attempt, I'm pretty happy with the result as it is. What do you think?